Starting from nothing is not just a financial disadvantage. It is a psychological battle. When you have no safety net, no generational wealth, no one opening doors for you, and no financial cushion to fall back on. You aren't just trying to build money, you're trying to rebuild your belief in what is possible. The world around you trains you to think small when you come from nothing. You are surrounded by people who normalize settling, accepting limitations, and repeating the same patterns generation after generation. You are raised in environments where survival is the priority, not growth. You witness financial struggle so often that struggle becomes familiar, and familiarity becomes identity. When you start from zero, the greatest obstacle you face is not money. It is the mindset you inherited from a world that taught you to expect nothing more than the bare minimum. Most people never escape this psychological trap. They don't fail because they're not capable. They fail because they internalize the limitations they were born into. They believe wealth belongs to others, people smarter, luckier, more advantaged, or more connected. They believe money is something you either have or you don't. But the truth is much simpler. Wealth starts in the mind long before it materializes in the bank. The rich don't get rich because they have money. They get rich because they think, act, and make decisions like wealthy people long before they ever possess wealth. They create a mindset that supports wealth, attracts opportunity, builds discipline, and develops value. This is the mindset you must build if you want to go from $0 to $1 million. When you start from nothing, every decision matters more. Every hour matters more. Every mistake costs more. Every opportunity means more. You cannot afford to think like everyone else. You cannot afford to waste your time in distraction or emotional impulses. You cannot afford to operate from fear. You cannot afford to be passive. The people who eventually rise from nothing do so because they become intensely aware of their choices. They stop letting their circumstances dictate their future. They stop letting their emotions control their money. They stop seeking permission and start building momentum. They stop waiting for the perfect opportunity and start creating their own. The first step in wealth creation is understanding the truth most people never accept. Your financial life is a reflection of your mindset. If your beliefs about money are weak, emotional, or fear-based, your financial results will be the same. If you secretly believe money is hard to get, you will behave in ways that repel opportunity. If you believe wealth is immoral, you will sabotage yourself whenever you get close to success. If you believe rich people are lucky, you will never learn the skills that create wealth. If you believe you're not meant for success, you will shrink your potential to match your belief system. People don't fail because they lack intelligence. They fail because they protect their limiting beliefs. A person who thinks small builds a small life. A person who sees themselves as powerless behaves with powerlessness. A person who believes money controls them will never learn how to control money. But when someone shifts their identity, when they begin thinking like a value creator, a problem solver, a builder, and a strategist, everything changes. Their decisions change. Their habits change. Their confidence changes. Their opportunities change. Wealth is not a product of money. Wealth is a product of identity. Starting from nothing forces you into one of two paths. Either you adopt a victim mindset and accept your circumstances, or you adopt a creator mindset and fight to redesign your life from the ground up. The victim mindset says life is unfair. I can't do anything about it. The creator mindset says, life is unfair, but I will outthink, outwork, and outgrow anything that tries to limit me. Most people choose the victim mindset because it is emotionally easier. It requires no effort, no risk, no responsibility. But it also guarantees that nothing will change. The creator mindset demands accountability, the uncomfortable truth that your future depends on you alone. No one is coming to save you. No one is coming to hand you opportunity. No one is coming to give you permission to become wealthy. You must give yourself permission. When you start from nothing, your relationship with failure becomes your defining factor. Most people interpret failure as a signal to stop. Wealth builders interpret failure as information. They don't attach emotion to it. They don't self-destruct after setbacks. They don't crumble under pressure. They take failure as feedback, a message that a strategy needs adjusting, not that a dream needs abandoning. When you start from nothing, you must become someone who sees failure as movement rather than defeat. Every mistake is a lesson. Every setback is experience. Every obstacle is training. Everything that feels like loss is actually shaping you into someone capable of managing wealth. There is a psychological shift that happens when you start studying wealthy people in depth. You notice they aren't superhuman. They're not magically talented. They simply think in ways that poor people never learn. They are comfortable with long-term planning. They understand delayed gratification. They prioritize learning skills instead of chasing entertainment. They invest more time into opportunities than into distractions. They see money as a tool, not a reward. They view risk as strategy, not danger. Wealthy people do not wait for the right opportunity. They put themselves in motion until opportunity appears. To build wealth from zero, you must learn to control your impulses. Poverty thrives in impulsiveness. Emotional spending, emotional reactions, emotional decisions, emotional avoidance. Wealth thrives in discipline, disciplined saving, disciplined investing, disciplined learning, disciplined risk-taking. The greatest difference between those who rise and those who stay stuck is not intelligence, it is impulse control. A poor mindset chases pleasure now. A wealthy mindset sacrifices now for a bigger reward later. A poor mindset buys to feel good. A wealthy mindset invests to grow. A poor mindset avoids discomfort. A wealthy mindset uses discomfort to sharpen skill. When you start from nothing, the temptation to escape is everywhere. You want relief. You want comfort. You want distraction. But comfort destroys ambition. Distraction destroys focus. Relief destroys momentum. When you start with no advantage, you must build mental toughness that others don't need. You must learn to be uncomfortable without breaking. You must learn to be patient without losing enthusiasm. You must learn to work without immediate reward. You must learn to thrive in uncertainty. Wealth is built in the dark, long before it appears in the light. Another essential mindset shift is understanding that money follows value. People who remain poor see money as something you get. People who become wealthy see money as something you earn through value creation. If you focus on money, you chase endlessly. If you focus on value, money chases you. The mindset required to go from zero to a million is the mindset of solving problems, filling needs, creating solutions, building skills, and increasing your usefulness to the world. A wealthy person doesn't ask, how can I make more money? They ask, how can I become more valuable? This shift alone separates the wealthy from the average. Starting from nothing teaches you something most wealthy people born into comfort never learn: hunger. Hunger is the fuel that turns discipline into mastery. Hunger gives you the stamina to work longer, think harder, and push further. Hunger makes you resourceful. Hunger makes you creative. Hunger strengthens your resilience. Wealthy people who were born rich never experience this advantage. They inherit money, but they rarely inherit hunger. And hunger is what makes self-made millionaires dangerous. If you want to go from zero to $1 million, you must become someone who refuses to settle. Every wealthy person who started from nothing had a moment where they said, "This ends with me." A moment of psychological rebellion. A moment of internal uprising. A moment where they refused to repeat the cycles of their upbringing. A moment where they took responsibility for a future no one else believed they could create. That moment is the birth of wealth. Not the first sale. Not the first investment. Not the first success. The moment you decide your life will not be defined by where you began, you do not need privilege to become wealthy. You need clarity. You need direction. You need identity. You need discipline. You need hunger. You need belief in yourself strong enough to overpower the noise around you. Wealth is built first in the mind, then in habits, then in actions, then in results. Starting from zero is not a disadvantage, it is a purification. It strips away excuses. It forces growth. It builds resilience. It gives you a story worth telling. Your journey begins now, Not with money, but with mindset. Not with opportunity, but with identity. Not with resources, but with the belief that you can become someone capable of building wealth from nothing. You do not need to be born rich. You only need to be born ready to rise. Before you can build $1 million, you must become the kind of person who can hold $1 million. Wealth does not stay with someone who lacks the identity to sustain it. This is why so many lottery winners, overnight celebrities, or sudden high-income earners end up broke again. Their identity never evolved to match their new financial reality. They received money, but kept the same beliefs, habits, emotions, insecurities, and decision-making patterns that kept them poor. Wealth enters their life, but their mindset expels it. Money obeys psychology. It flows toward those who think like creators and escapes those who think like consumers. To go from 0 to $1 million, you must transform from the inside out. You must build the identity of a wealthy person long before you see the money itself. A millionaire identity is not defined by income. It is defined by internal standards. A person with a millionaire identity behaves differently, chooses differently, reacts differently. They are not passive. They are not reckless. They are not emotionally driven. They are not easily distracted. They understand that wealth is a long-term game, and identity is the foundation that keeps them on the path. They don't try to get rich quick. They don't chase trends. They don't seek shortcuts. Instead, they build the internal architecture that supports consistent financial growth year after year. This internal architecture, not strategy, not luck, not timing, is what separates those who rise from those who remain stuck. The first pillar of the millionaire. Identity is self-belief. Not motivational self-belief, but a deep internal certainty that says, I am capable of creating wealth. Without this belief, every action feels forced. Every setback feels fatal. Every obstacle becomes a reason to quit. When you believe wealth is impossible for you, your mind will sabotage every opportunity. But when you believe you are capable of becoming wealthy, your mind begins scanning for possibilities. You speak differently. You learn differently. You act differently. You show up differently. Self-belief is not arrogance, it is responsibility. It is the mental agreement that you will become someone whose actions deserve financial reward. The second pillar is identity-based discipline. Poor discipline comes from trying to force yourself to do things you don't believe you are capable of sustaining. Millionaire discipline comes from identity. I am the kind of person who follows through. When your identity is aligned with discipline, consistency becomes natural, not forced. You don't need hype. You don't need motivation. You don't wait to feel like it. Your habits reflect the person you believe you are. A millionaire identity makes discipline feel like self-respect, not self-punishment. The third pillar is delayed gratification. Wealthy people think in years. Poor thinkers think in moments. A millionaire identity does not need instant gratification because it is anchored in long-term vision. It is not seduced by small rewards that compromise the big reward. When you become someone who thinks long-term, you begin valuing investments more than impulse purchases, skills more than entertainment, and growth more than comfort. This mindset shift alone rewrites your financial destiny. The fourth pillar is emotional neutrality with money. Most people have emotional reactions to money: fear, insecurity, guilt, excitement, shame, or panic. These emotions distort decision-making. Emotional spending, emotional investing, emotional avoidance. All of these behaviors are symptoms of a fragile financial identity. A millionaire identity treats money like a tool, not a therapist. Money becomes logical, not emotional. It becomes strategic, not impulsive. When you think like a wealthy person, you detach emotion from financial decisions and operate from clarity instead of fear. Another powerful element of the millionaire identity is accountability. Wealthy thinkers take responsibility for their outcomes, good or bad. They do not blame the economy, their upbringing, their boss, their circumstances, or their lack of opportunities. They understand that external factors influence but do not decide their future. They hold themselves responsible for their habits, their mindset, their learning, their actions, and their results. Accountability is the birthplace of power. When you believe you control your financial destiny, your mind becomes capable of creating it. The next element is resourcefulness. People who stay broke believe they need more resources, more money, more time, more connections. People who become wealthy focus on being resourceful, learning faster, adapting quicker, finding solutions, creating opportunities, and making the most out of what they have. Resourcefulness is what turns nothing into something. It is the alchemy of wealth creation. A millionaire identity does not wait for ideal conditions. It builds under imperfect ones. Another essential part of a wealthy identity is your relationship with risk. Poor thinkers fear risk because they fear loss. Wealthy thinkers embrace calculated risk because they understand that growth requires bold moves. Not gambling, not recklessness, but informed, strategic risk-taking. A millionaire identity understands that playing it safe forever is the most dangerous financial strategy of all. Opportunities reward the bold, not the careless. The millionaire identity also requires patience and consistency. Wealth is not built overnight, nor does it need to be. It grows slowly at first, then rapidly through compounding. But most people quit during the slow phase because they have not built the identity that allows them to withstand boredom, uncertainty, and delayed results. A wealthy identity thrives in the long game. It understands that compounding requires unwavering consistency, not intensity. It knows that small actions done repeatedly create large outcomes over time. Another key part of the millionaire identity is your internal standards. Wealthy people hold themselves to higher standards than everyone around them. They expect more from their work, more from their habits, more from their focus, and more from their results. They demand excellence when others settle for mediocrity. They build in silence. They train when others sleep. They learn when others waste time. They sacrifice now for a payoff others can't even imagine. Wealth follows standards. If your standards remain low, your income will remain low. The millionaire identity also requires controlling your environment. Wealthy thinkers place themselves around ambition, growth, opportunity, information, and people who stretch them. They avoid environments where scarcity thinking dominates. They avoid negative influences. They avoid energy-draining relationships. They avoid people who fear success or resent ambition. Money grows where ambition grows. Your environment is shaping your identity every day, consciously or consciously. Another core piece of the millionaire identity is becoming a lifelong learner. The wealthy constantly acquire skills, knowledge, and insight. They read, analyze, observe, experiment, study others, and learn from every outcome. Their minds never stagnate. They understand that money follows value, and value comes from knowledge. If you want to increase your income, you must first increase your skill set. If you want to increase your opportunities, you must increase your intelligence. Learning is the foundation of earning. And finally, the millionaire identity requires the belief that wealth is your responsibility, not your dream. Poor thinkers hope to become rich. Millionaire thinkers prepare to become rich. They make decisions aligned with their future wealth long before they achieve it. They live as if their success is inevitable, not optional. And through those decisions, the inevitability becomes real. Identity is the ultimate wealth-building tool, because you will always behave in alignment with the person you believe you are. If you believe you are average, you will live an average financial life. If you believe you are capable of wealth, your actions will eventually create it. Do not chase money. Build the identity that attracts it. The $1 million comes later. The millionaire comes first. Asterisk. Money is not complicated. Money follows simple rules, predictable patterns, and clear logic. But human behavior is messy, emotional, impulsive, fearful, undisciplined, and inconsistent. This is why most financial problems are not money problems, they are behavior problems. People don't fail to build wealth because they are stupid. They fail because their emotions override their logic. They fail because their impulses conquer their intentions. They fail because their habits betray their goals. They fail because they never develop the mental discipline required to handle money with clarity and control. Wealth is not built by brilliance, it is built by consistency. And consistency comes from discipline. The discipline of money begins with understanding your impulses. Every financial decision you make is influenced by deep, psychological forces that operate below the surface: the desire for comfort, the fear of missing out, the craving for social approval, the instinct to avoid discomfort, the need for emotional relief, and the fear of scarcity. These impulses drive spending habits, sabotage savings, delay investing, and prevent long-term thinking. If you do not control these impulses, they will control you. And if your impulses control your money, you will never build wealth. The poor mindset reacts emotionally to money. The wealthy mindset responds strategically. When someone with a poor mindset feels stressed, they spend for comfort. When they feel bored, they buy for stimulation. When they feel insecure, they purchase for appearance. Their money becomes a tool for emotional regulation instead of financial growth. This is how poverty maintains itself, through unconscious emotional spending. But a wealthy thinker does something radically different. They separate emotion from money. They feel the impulse, but do not obey it. They understand the difference between want and need, between impulse and strategy, between pleasure and progress. Money discipline begins with the ability to pause before reacting, to think before acting. One of the biggest traps that destroys financial growth is instant gratification. The desire to feel good now is the enemy of long-term wealth. People waste money not because they don't earn enough, but because they cannot delay pleasure. They want the new phone, the new shoes, the night out, temporary thrill, and in chasing these moments of dopamine, they destroy the possibility of compounding their wealth. Instant gratification is poverty disguised as pleasure. Delayed gratification is wealth disguised as discipline. The difference between the two determines your entire financial future. To develop money discipline, you must also master the art of consistency. Wealth is not built through dramatic actions. It is built through small, repetitive decisions. Saving consistently, investing consistently, learning consistently, working consistently, improving consistently. A poor mindset waits for motivation. A wealthy mindset relies on systems. Systems protect you from emotional inconsistency. Systems ensure progress even when you feel unmotivated, tired, or uncertain. When your financial habits become automatic, you no longer need willpower to sustain them. Your identity sustains them. Another critical part of money discipline is tracking your behavior. People fear looking at their finances because numbers expose the truth. Numbers reveal habits. Numbers reveal impulses. Numbers reveal mistakes. Numbers reveal the gap between who you think you are and how you actually behave. Wealthy people monitor their finances because awareness creates control. Poor people avoid their finances because avoidance creates chaos. You cannot manage what you do not measure. You cannot control what you refuse to confront. Money discipline also requires understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. Poor spenders confuse consumption with investment. They think buying more makes them feel rich. They believe owning things is a form of wealth. They see liabilities as rewards. But wealthy thinkers see liabilities as traps, drains that weaken future potential. They value assets, skills, knowledge, investments, tools, networks, and systems that generate returns over time. The disciplined mind automatically classifies every purchase. Does this feed my future? Or does this feed my impulse? Another powerful component of money discipline is setting financial boundaries. Boundaries with yourself, your environment, and other people. You must protect your time from distractions. You must protect your focus from negativity. You must protect your money from people who drain it, from emotional triggers that weaken you, and from habits that sabotage you. Wealth cannot grow where boundaries are weak. The disciplined person says no far more often than they say yes. They do not justify poor spending. They do not negotiate with procrastination. They do not lower their standards because others expect them to build discipline. You must understand your financial triggers. Every person has emotional triggers that lead them into impulsive decisions: stress, boredom, loneliness, insecurity, pressure, celebration, fatigue. These triggers activate destructive habits unless you learn to identify them. Wealthy thinkers do not fight impulses blindly. They study them. They anticipate them. They prepare systems to neutralize them. The disciplined mind is not perfect. It is self-aware. Another part of money discipline is learning to master your time, because time is the ultimate currency of wealth. People who treat time casually live ordinary financial lives. People who treat time with intensity achieve extraordinary financial lives. Wealthy thinkers avoid time-wasting behaviors not because they are strict, but because they understand the compounding value of every hour. A single hour wasted today is not just 1 hour lost, it is the thousands of hours of future opportunity it could have created. Money grows when time is used wisely. Also essential to discipline is delayed reward cycles. The most successful people train themselves to associate satisfaction with progress, not pleasure. They find joy in improvement, not consumption. They reward themselves with growth, not distraction. This shift rewires the brain. Instead of chasing instant pleasure, your mind begins to crave long-term results. You stop needing dopamine spikes from spending. You start feeling dopamine from saving, investing, learning, and building. Your brain becomes an ally instead of an enemy. To achieve money discipline, you must also remove financial shame. Shame paralyzes growth. It prevents people from learning, from seeking help, from taking action, from confronting their mistakes. Wealthy thinkers do not see financial ignorance as failure. They see it as a temporary stage. They do not shame themselves for their past. They use the past as fuel. They understand that every mistake they made was part of their training. They rise above shame by replacing avoidance with initiative. The discipline of money also includes strategic frugality, not cheapness, not deprivation, not fear-based saving, but intelligent prioritization, focusing your resources on what truly matters. Wealthy thinkers are frugal in the areas that drain them and abundant in the areas that grow them. They cut what weakens them and invest in what strengthens them. They simplify their spending so that their ambitions remain complex. Finally, and this is the heart of money discipline, you must build a mind that obeys your future, not your impulses. Every time you resist an emotional decision, you strengthen the identity required to manage wealth. Every time you act based on vision instead of temptation, you grow your financial potential. Every disciplined choice compounds. Every controlled impulse builds stability. Every habit becomes a brick in the foundation of your wealth. Discipline is not punishment. It is freedom. Freedom from fear. Freedom from insecurity. Freedom from the pressure of living paycheck to paycheck. Freedom from the emotional chaos that keeps most people financially trapped. Discipline is the bridge that connects your present self to your future wealth. If you can master discipline, you can master money. And if you can master money, you can design a life that few ever experience. Wealth is not an accident. It is not luck, fate, genetics, or privilege alone. Wealth is a skill, a learnable, trainable, improvable skill, just like writing, speaking, coding, or playing an instrument. And this is the truth that most people never fully accept. They see wealthy individuals and assume something mysterious separates them from everyone else. They assume rich people possess a gift others don't have, superior intelligence, extraordinary opportunity, or some secret advantage. But the reality is far simpler. Wealthy people practice the skill of wealth, while everyone else practices the habits of survival. The wealthy treat money as a craft. The poor treat money as a reaction. Wealth builders improve. Non-wealth builders repeat. And repetition without improvement creates stagnation. To build wealth from zero, you must begin seeing money as something you can get better at. Earning is a skill. Saving is a skill. Investing is a skill. Negotiating is a skill. Selling is a skill. Problem solving is a skill. Money management is a skill. And like any skill, it requires time, effort, feedback, failure, and adjustment. The tragic truth is that most people want wealth, but refuse to treat it with the seriousness required to master it. They want the rewards without the learning curve. They want the lifestyle without the discipline. They want the freedom without the training. But mastery never works that way. Mastery comes to those who commit to learning the mechanics of wealth. The skill of wealth begins with understanding value. Money flows toward value. The marketplace rewards those who solve problems, provide solutions, create improvement, and offer usefulness. Wealth is not extracted, it is exchanged. You receive money when you give value. And the more value you can provide, the more money will naturally flow into your life. Poor thinkers focus on money itself. Wealthy thinkers focus on expanding the value they bring into the world. They ask different questions, not how do I make more money, but how do I become more valuable? When you master value, you master wealth. Another skill that defines wealthy individuals is learning speed. The rich do not wait for life to teach them. They teach themselves. They read, they analyze, they observe, they test. They seek information constantly because information gives them leverage. They understand that the world is always evolving, and those who adapt fastest rise the highest. Poor thinkers avoid learning because it feels difficult or boring. Wealthy thinkers crave learning because it feels empowering. Every skill they acquire increases their earning potential. Every insight gives them an advantage. Every failure becomes a lesson that sharpens their strategy. Wealth is also built through problem-solving skills. The bigger the problems you can solve, the bigger the income you can earn. Small problems create small paychecks. Big problems create big paychecks. Wealth builders train their minds to look at problems not as obstacles, but as opportunities. They understand that every complaint, frustration, inconvenience, or inefficiency is a doorway to value creation. They become solution-oriented thinkers rather than problem-oriented complainers. That shift alone separates the successful from the unsuccessful. Another essential wealth skill is communication, the ability to persuade, articulate, influence, and connect. Wealth grows in networks. Opportunities emerge from people. Value is exchanged through relationships. If you can communicate effectively, you can negotiate better, sell better, lead better, and build partnerships that accelerate your financial growth. Wealthy people study tone, empathy, persuasion, and clarity. They do not speak to be heard. They speak to be understood. They communicate with intention, not impulse. One of the most powerful skills in wealth building is the ability to take calculated risks. Risk is unavoidable, but it can be managed. The wealthy analyze before acting. They gather information. They evaluate consequences. They test small before going big. They diversify. They protect downside while maximizing upside. Poor thinkers avoid all risk and therefore avoid all opportunity. Or they take reckless risks out of emotion, desperation, or ignorance. The wealthy approach risk with strategy, not fear. To master wealth, you must also develop execution skills. Knowledge means nothing without action. Ideas are worthless without implementation. Dreams collapse without execution. Wealthy people take action faster than the average person. They do not wait for perfect timing. They do not wait until they feel ready. They do not overthink themselves into paralysis. They move, they test, they adjust, they improve. They learn through experience rather than speculation. Execution is a skill, and repetition builds mastery. Another critical skill is financial literacy. Wealthy people understand how money works: interests, compounding, taxes, debt, assets, leverage, and economic cycles. They take the time to study the mechanics behind money because mastery requires knowledge. Poor thinkers avoid financial literacy because it feels confusing. But wealthy thinkers lean into that confusion until it becomes clarity. Every hour spent understanding money multiplies future opportunities. Wealth building also requires emotional intelligence, because money amplifies emotions. When you feel fear, you may hesitate. When you feel excitement, you may overspend. When you feel greed, you may take dangerous risks. When you feel insecurity, You may make irrational decisions. Wealthy individuals learn to regulate their emotions. They do not react to the highs and lows of financial life with panic or impulsivity. They develop a calm, strategic mindset that navigates uncertainty. With precision, one of the most underrated skills in wealth building is pattern recognition. Wealthy thinkers observe trends, behaviors, market shifts, and opportunities before the rest of the world sees them. They connect dots. They anticipate what others overlook. They understand the psychology behind buying decisions, market cycles, and cultural shifts. This ability allows them to position themselves ahead of change rather than behind it. Another essential skill, consistency. Wealth rewards those who stay committed longer than others. Most people quit too soon. They want quick results, and when progress feels slow, they abandon their efforts. Wealth building is the opposite. Slow, then sudden. Gradual, then exponential. Invisible, then obvious. Those who win are the ones who maintain consistency long enough for compounding to reveal its power. The wealth skill set also includes decision-making. Wealthy thinkers make decisions quicker and with more confidence because they have trained themselves to trust their judgment. They do not drown in indecision. They do not let fear paralyze them. They gather enough information to move, then they act. Poor thinkers wait until they feel certain, which means they never act at all. Another powerful skill is the ability to adapt. The wealthy internalize the truth that nothing stays the same. Industries evolve. Technology advances. Markets shift. People change. Opportunities appear and disappear. Wealthy individuals evolve with the world rather than resisting it. They pivot when needed, reinvent themselves when required, and remain flexible in mindset and strategy. But the most important wealth skill of all is persistence. This skill alone separates the wealthy from the average more than anything else. Wealth building requires endurance, the ability to face setbacks, learn from mistakes, and continue forward without losing direction. Most people fail because they quit when things get uncomfortable. Wealthy people persist long enough to reach the breakthrough that everyone else never sees. Wealth is a skill set, a learnable, repeatable skill set. Once you master the skill of wealth, you can lose everything and rebuild it again. Because the money is not the asset, you are the asset. The knowledge is the asset. The discipline is the asset. The identity is the asset. The person you become on the journey to wealth is far more valuable than the money you accumulate. And once you have the skills, the wealth becomes inevitable. Wealth does not begin with money, it begins with value. Money is simply the reward you receive in exchange for solving problems, creating improvements, offering solutions, and providing usefulness to others. People who chase money rarely find it because they chase the outcome instead of the cause. But people who chase value inevitably attract money because they focus on what the marketplace rewards. This is the mindset shift that separates those who earn little from those who earn abundantly. Poor thinkers chase money. Wealthy thinkers create value. If you want to go from 0 to $1 million, you must stop asking, how do I make money? And start asking, how do I become more valuable? Value creation is the engine of wealth. It is the force that generates income, opportunity, leverage, and compounding. Yet most people never learn how to create value because they were trained to think like employees, not creators. They were taught to trade time for money instead of producing results. They were conditioned to follow instructions instead of identifying problems. They were taught to rely on permission instead of initiative. But markets don't reward obedience. They reward effectiveness. They reward creativity. They reward solutions. The world is filled with people who want higher income, but very few who offer higher value to become valuable. You must begin understanding what value actually means. Value is what helps someone. Value is what makes someone's life easier, faster, safer, more efficient, more enjoyable, or more profitable. Value is the relief of pain, the removal of frustration, the solving of problems, and the fulfillment of needs and desires. Whenever you help someone achieve a goal, avoid a problem, or relieve discomfort, you have created value. And in every economy, from ancient markets to modern digital industries, value is the currency that people willingly pay for. Another key truth about value creation is this: your value determines your income, not your potential, not your degree, not your background, not your intentions. Your value. If your skills, knowledge, or output create minimal impact, then the world will reward you minimally. But if your skills create significant impact, if they solve larger problems, produce greater benefits, and deliver stronger results, then your income rises naturally. Money follows impact. You cannot demand more money without increasing the value you provide. This is why wealthy people constantly ask, how can I solve bigger problems? How can I help more people? How can I create greater results? How can I do it faster or better? These questions shift your mind from limitation to opportunity. They open your eyes to gaps in the market, unmet needs, underserved audiences, outdated systems, inefficient processes, rising trends, and new possibilities waiting for someone bold enough to seize them. Poor thinkers see problems and complain. Wealthy thinkers see problems and create value. To build wealth, you must cultivate the skill of opportunity recognition. Opportunities are not random, they are simply problems waiting for the right person to solve them. Every business you see began with someone saying, I can fix this. Every fortune was built by someone who saw a need before others recognized its value. Opportunity surrounds you every day in conversations. Frustrations, patterns, inefficiencies, emotions, communities, and trends. The difference is that most people overlook these opportunities because they are conditioned to see limitations rather than leverage. Value creation requires that you develop a set of skills, but more importantly, it requires that you learn how to apply those skills in ways that benefit others. A skill by itself is not valuable. A skill used to solve problems is priceless. This is why two people with the same skill can earn wildly different incomes. One simply uses the skill for tasks, while the other uses it to create impact. You must learn to translate your skills into results that people care about. If you can produce results, you will never struggle for income. Results are always in demand. Another essential component of value creation is understanding incentives. People act based on self-interest. They buy something because they want something: relief, convenience, improvement, emotion, status, or transformation. If you understand what people want, you can create value that aligns with their desires. If you misunderstand their desires, you will create products, services, or ideas that nobody needs. Wealthy individuals study human behavior. They understand what motivates people, what frustrates them, what scares them, what excites them, and what they aspire to. The better you understand human nature, the easier it becomes to create value. Value also scales. Solving one person's problem pays you once. Solving the same problem for thousands pays you massively. This is the difference between linear and exponential wealth. Wealthy people look for ways to deliver value at scale through systems, platforms, tools, automation, technology, or replicable services. They shift from being the source of value to being the architect of value. They create something once that can serve thousands while they sleep. This is how fortunes accelerate. But to reach this level of value creation, you must embrace deep work and skill mastery. Shallow skills create shallow income. Mastery creates leverage. When you become one of the best at what you do, the marketplace begins to chase you. People seek your help. Opportunities find you. Your name becomes associated with excellence. But mastery requires discipline, focus, practice, and the willingness to push beyond what is comfortable. Most people never become valuable because they never become excellent. They remain average, and average value produces average income. Another key principle is learning to package and present your value. The world does not pay for hidden talent. It pays for visible impact. Wealthy individuals learn how to articulate what they offer, how to position themselves, how to communicate their value, and how to showcase their results. They learn to market themselves not through arrogance, but through clarity. If people cannot see your value, they cannot reward it. To create value, you must also become someone who finishes what they start. Incomplete ideas, half-done projects, abandoned goals, and inconsistent efforts create zero value. Wealthy thinkers follow through. They close loops. They execute. They refine. They launch. They persist. The marketplace rewards completion, not potential. A finished product, a delivered service, a completed solution, these create income. Ideas alone are worthless unless executed. One of the deepest truths about value creation is this: the world pays you for solving the problems it does not want to solve. Most people want comfort. They avoid responsibility. They avoid complexity. They avoid challenge. They avoid the hard work that value creation requires. That avoidance is your opportunity. Every problem someone refuses to solve becomes a problem you can profit from solving. Wealthy individuals lean into discomfort because discomfort is where the value is found. And perhaps the most powerful realization is this: once you know how to create value, you can always make money. You become financially independent not because of a job, not because of a market, not because of luck, but because you possess the internal capability to generate money on demand through your mind, your skills, and your problem-solving ability. This is true financial freedom. Value creation transforms you into someone unstoppable. Someone who no longer fears economic downturns, job loss, market shifts, or changing circumstances. You become the source of your wealth. You become the engine that produces opportunity. You become the architect of your financial future. Money does not make you valuable. Your value makes you money. Once you understand this, nothing can stop your rise. Building wealth is not difficult because the strategies are complicated. It is difficult because the human mind was not designed for long-term thinking. We evolved to survive the present moment, not to plan for a future that feels distant and abstract. This is why compounding, the most powerful force in wealth creation, remains invisible to most people. Compounding is slow at first, so slow that impatient minds think it isn't working. But compounding is not supposed to be impressive in the beginning. It is supposed to feel boring, uneventful, quiet, and unglamorous. Its power emerges only after years of consistency, discipline, and delayed gratification. And that is why the long game separates the wealthy from everyone else. Not intelligence, not opportunity, not privilege, but the ability to think in decades while others think in days. The long game begins with a fundamental mindset shift. Wealth does not reward intensity, it rewards duration. Anyone can be disciplined for a week. Anyone can save money for a month. Anyone can stay focused for a short period of time. But wealth is built by those who remain disciplined for years, not days. Those who save even when it's boring. Those who invest even when the results are invisible. Those who keep learning even when no one acknowledges their progress. Those who keep building even when the world doubts them. The long game demands patience. And patience demands maturity, emotional maturity, financial maturity. Psychological maturity. Most people fail to build wealth not because they are incapable, but because they quit too early. They expect fast results in a world that rewards slow mastery. They want the payoff without the buildup. They want the success without the discipline. They want the results without respecting the timeline. But compounding cannot be rushed. It grows like a tree, quietly, underground, slowly forming roots before anything visible appears above the surface. For a long time, nothing seems to happen. Then suddenly, everything happens at once. Wealth follows this same pattern: gradual, invisible, then explosive. People who do not understand this pattern become impatient. Impatience leads to emotional decisions, impulsive spending, abandoning investments, chasing trends, and quitting just before the breakthrough. This is why the long game is the battlefield of wealth, not the stock market, not the real estate market, not the business world. The battle is psychological. The enemy is your impatience, and the victory is earned through the discipline of waiting. The long game requires delayed gratification, one of the strongest predictors of long-term financial success. Delayed gratification is the ability to choose future reward over immediate pleasure. It is the ability to resist impulses that weaken your financial foundation. It is the ability to sacrifice comfort now for abundance later. When you delay gratification, you activate a powerful internal shift. Your mind begins valuing long-term outcomes more than short-term stimulation. This shift is what transforms ordinary people into millionaires. Because wealth is nothing more than delayed gratification multiplied over time. Another essential part of the long game is understanding how compounding works, not just with money, but with skills, relationships, habits, and opportunities. Skills compound. The more you learn, the faster you learn. Habits compound. Every disciplined action reinforces the next. Relationships compound. The more value you give, the more opportunities return. Income compounds. As your skills grow, your earning potential accelerates. A wealthy life is the result of compounding in multiple areas, not just finances. When you commit to continuous improvement, the results grow exponentially. The long game also requires emotional tolerance, the ability to endure boredom, uncertainty, setbacks, and the lack of immediate feedback. Wealth building often feels like nothing is happening. There are long stretches where results appear stagnant, but stagnation is often an illusion. Behind the scenes, the compounding is accumulating, preparing for its breakthrough. Most people cannot tolerate this stage. They abandon their strategy, chase something more exciting, or give up entirely. But those who understand the long game embrace these quiet periods. They know this is where the real growth is happening, even if it cannot yet be seen. Another powerful element is long-term vision. Wealthy individuals do not simply hope for a better future, they design it. They imagine what their life can look like in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. They craft visions that pull them forward. Vision provides direction when motivation fades. Vision strengthens discipline when temptation appears. Vision anchors focus when distractions multiply. Without vision, the long game feels meaningless. With vision, it feels purposeful. To master the long game, you must break free from the short-term mindset that dominates modern society. You must resist the cultural addiction to instant satisfaction, fast entertainment, fast consumption, fast success. You must understand that every shortcut you take steals from your future. The world rewards those who can think beyond the present moment, beyond the immediate reward, beyond the emotional impulse. The wealthy excel at this. They think in long arcs, long cycles, long strategies. They play a game most people don't even realize exists. A major reason people struggle. The long game is the fear of wasted effort. They worry that their work won't pay off. They fear being wrong. They fear losing time. But effort is never wasted when it leads to skill. Failure is never wasted when it leads to wisdom. Time is never wasted when it is invested in growth. The long game reframes failure from something to avoid into something to use. Every setback becomes experience. Every mistake becomes refinement. Every challenge becomes strength. When you think long-term, nothing is wasted. Everything is training. The long game also requires strategic patience, not passive patience, not waiting without action. Strategic patience means continuing to execute consistently while trusting the timeline of compounding. It means sticking to your systems, reinforcing your habits, refining your skills, and staying committed even when the results are delayed. It means honoring the process, not chasing shortcuts. Strategic patience is what allows you to grow roots before you grow branches. Another element of wealth's long game is exposure to upside. Wealth is not just built through discipline, it is built through positioning. The long game teaches you to place yourself in environments where opportunity can strike. You invest early and consistently. You develop skills that increase in value over time. You build networks that expand in opportunity as the years go by. You start projects that accumulate momentum. Wealth grows because you place yourself in the right situations for luck to find you. The long game is a magnet for luck. One of the deepest truths about the long game is that discipline becomes easier over time. In the beginning, discipline feels like sacrifice. But as the long game unfolds, discipline turns into identity. You stop resisting your habits and start becoming your habits. Saving becomes automatic. Learning becomes enjoyable. Working becomes meaningful. Progress becomes addictive. At this stage, discipline no longer requires effort, it becomes who you are. People who understand the long game also understand the importance of not stopping. The biggest breakthroughs in wealth do not come from sudden brilliance. They come from refusing to quit. When you think long-term, you no longer see obstacles as stop signs. You see them as part of the journey. You don't crumble when something goes wrong. You adapt. You don't panic when things slow down. You stay consistent. Wealth becomes inevitable, not because you avoid failure, but because you outlast it. And this is the true power of the long game. It turns ordinary effort into extraordinary results. The same habits, repeated consistently, transform your finances. The same skills, refined repeatedly, transform your earning potential. The same projects, pursued patiently, transform your opportunities. Wealth is not made in sudden moments. It is made in accumulated moments. It is the reward for mastering time, mastering yourself, and mastering the patience to stay the course. The long game is psychological warfare against your impulses, your fears, your doubts, and your desire for immediate pleasure. But those who win this battle rise beyond the limitations of the average. They enter a world of exponential growth. They gain a mindset that transforms not just their finances, but their identity. Wealth is slow, then sudden. Invisible, then undeniable. Gradual, then explosive. Play the long game, and 1 million becomes not a dream, but an outcome of your identity, your consistency, and your patience. The difference between those who become wealthy and those who stay stagnant is not that one group takes risks and the other doesn't. Everyone takes risks. The poor take risks every day. They risk going broke. They risk unexpected emergencies. They risk living paycheck to paycheck. They risk never being prepared when life hits them. The difference is that the poor take unconscious, uncontrolled, emotional, and uncalculated risks, while the wealthy take strategic, informed, deliberate, and calculated risks. Wealth is not built by avoiding risk. It is built by understanding it. It is built by using risk as a tool rather than fearing it as a threat. To go from 0 to $1 million, you must learn the art of strategic risk-taking, a mindset that allows you to grow without gambling, to advance without chaos, and to rise without self-destruction. Most people misunderstand risk because they see it as something dangerous. But danger comes from ignorance, not from risk itself. Walking blindfolded across a busy road is dangerous. Walking the same road with your eyes open, understanding the timing of traffic, and crossing at the right moment is a calculated risk. The act is similar, the outcome is not. Wealthy minds operate with their eyes open. They study the environment, measure the variables, and understand the downside before they pursue the upside. They know where the danger is, but more importantly, they know where the opportunity lies. One of the most powerful psychological principles that separates wealthy thinkers is this: the greatest risk in life is taking no risk at all. People who fear risk become trapped in jobs they hate, incomes that stagnate, lives that never expand, and opportunities they never pursue. They avoid risk to stay safe, but their avoidance traps them in a greater danger, a life with no upward mobility. Avoiding risk is not safety. It is stagnation. And stagnation is a slow, quiet form of failure. Wealthy individuals understand that every breakthrough requires stepping into discomfort, not recklessly, but strategically. Strategic risk-taking begins with one fundamental question: what is the downside? And can I survive it? If the downside is catastrophic, you avoid the risk. If the downside is manageable, you evaluate the upside. If the upside significantly outweighs the downside, you take the risk. This is the core of wealthy decision-making. Poor thinkers reverse the formula. They obsess over the downside without evaluating the upside. They become paralyzed by fear, magnifying every potential loss while ignoring every potential gain. Or worse, they gamble impulsively, ignoring the downside entirely and acting based on emotion. Both patterns destroy wealth. The wealthy stay in the middle, cautious, informed, and bold. At the right moment, another critical part of strategic risk is separating luck from leverage. Luck is random. Leverage is created. Luck is hoping something happens. Leverage is positioning yourself so something is likely to happen. A wealthy mindset understands that leverage multiplies opportunity skills. Networks, tools, systems, platforms, and capital all increase the impact of your actions. When you have leverage, a small risk can create a massive reward. When you lack leverage, even a large risk produces little return. This is why wealthy individuals spend years building leverage mastery of skills, strong social connections, credibility, assets, and experience. When opportunity arrives, they are prepared to multiply it. Strategic risk also requires emotional detachment. Emotions destroy rational decision-making. Fear exaggerates danger. Excitement inflates expectations. Greed blinds you to the downside. Desperation leads to impulsive choices. Wealthy thinkers manage their emotions. They make decisions from clarity, not chaos. They know that emotional risk-taking is gambling, and gambling is not a wealth-building strategy. The calm mind sees options. The frantic mind sees illusions. Another part of this mindset is understanding. It's a symmetric risk. The kind of risk where the potential upside is unlimited, but the downside is limited. Wealthy people seek asymmetric risk. Starting a business has limited financial downside, but potentially massive upside. Investing a small amount consistently has limited downside, but potentially massive long-term upside. Learning a valuable skill has zero downside and unlimited upside. Building a personal brand, creating content, launching a product, all asymmetric risks. The wealthy pursue opportunities where losing costs little but winning changes everything. Meanwhile, those who stay poor engage in reverse asymmetry. High downside with low upside. Buying expensive status items. Taking payday loans. Gambling. Subscribing to get-rich-quick schemes. These actions carry enormous financial downside and almost no possibility of meaningful upside. A wealthy mindset avoids these traps entirely. Strategic risk also involves timing. Wealthy individuals understand that taking a risk too early or too late can kill the outcome. They observe trends, cycles, markets, and human behavior. They wait patiently, then act decisively when the moment is right. A poor mindset is either permanently paralyzed or permanently rushing. The wealthy mind moves with rhythm and precision. But one of the most misunderstood truths about strategic risk is that the earlier you take risks in life, the more rewarded you become. When you are young or at zero, your downside is minimal. You have less to lose. Fewer responsibilities tying you down, and more time to recover from mistakes. This is why many self-made millionaires begin their risk-taking early. They understand that the safest time to take a risk is when you have the least to protect. Waiting until life becomes heavier only increases the weight of failure. Early risk equals long-term reward. Another critical element of strategic risk is reducing the cost of failure. Wealthy thinkers minimize downside by preparing. They study. They test small. They create prototypes. They validate ideas before investing heavily. They calculate scenarios. They ask experts. They learn from others' failures. They enter a risk with as much information as possible. This transforms risk from a threat into an opportunity with guardrails. Strategic risk also demands the courage to act when others hesitate. Opportunities often appear before the majority recognizes them. By the time the crowd reacts, the advantage is gone. The wealthy mind understands that bold moves must occur before certainty arrives. Certainty is comfortable, but comfort is expensive. The wealthy step in when the opportunity is emerging. not when it is obvious yet. They do something equally important. They cut losses quickly. Poor thinkers stay attached to failing decisions because of pride, denial, or emotional investment. Wealthy thinkers detach from the decisions that don't work. They pivot. They adjust. They move on without emotional residue. Strategic risk-taking is not about being right. It is about recognizing when you are wrong fast enough to redirect your energy. One of the deepest truths about wealth is this: your relationship with risk determines the size of your future. If you avoid risk, your life becomes small. If you take reckless risks, your life becomes chaotic. But if you take calculated risks, your life becomes expansive. The wealthy live in this balance. They do not fear risk. They respect it. They do not jump blindly. They jump intentionally. They do not gamble. They strategize. They do not rely on luck. They build leverage. They do not cling to safety. They create resilience. Strategic risk-taking transforms you into someone who cannot be stopped. Someone who sees opportunity where others see danger. Someone who grows while others freeze. Someone who advances while others hesitate. Someone who moves with intelligence, courage, and precision. Master risk, and you master reward. Master reward, and the path to 1 million becomes not just possible, but inevitable. No path to 1 million is smooth. No journey to wealth is clean. People imagine success as a straight upward climb, but the truth is far more chaotic. Real financial growth looks like a series of rises and falls. Moments of progress followed by moments of difficulty. Unexpected challenges, emotional breakdowns, market downturns, failed attempts, bad investments, lost opportunities, unpredictable life events, and decisions that didn't go the way you hoped. The people who become wealthy are not the ones who avoid setbacks. They are the ones who survive them. They are the ones who learn how to keep moving forward when everything around them pushes them backward. Wealth is not just a game of strategy, it is a test of resilience. And resilience is what determines who reaches the $1 million mark and who collapses before they get there. Financial resilience begins with understanding a simple truth. Failure is part of the process, not the end of it. Everyone wants success, but very few are prepared for the number of failures required to achieve it. People want growth without discomfort, progress without setbacks, momentum without resistance. But every attempt you make on the journey to wealth is a lesson, sometimes painful, but always powerful. Failure teaches you what doesn't work. It exposes your weaknesses. It forces you to improve. It reveals blind spots. It strengthens your problem-solving abilities. And most importantly, it develops the psychological toughness required to handle wealth responsibly. You cannot reach $1 million without learning how to fall and rise repeatedly. Most people don't fail financially because their plans weren't good enough. They fail because they couldn't handle the emotional impact of setbacks. A single mistake shatters their confidence. A financial loss destroys their momentum. A business problem makes them quit. They interpret setbacks as signs that they are not meant for success. But wealthy individuals interpret setbacks differently. They view them as data, information, feedback. They separate the event from their identity. They do not label themselves as failures. They label their strategies as ineffective and adjust accordingly. That perspective shift alone is why they survive long enough to succeed. Resilience also requires emotional control during chaos. When the market crashes, when unexpected expenses hit, when plans fall apart, the average person reacts with panic. Panic leads to impulsive decisions. Impulsive decisions lead to long-term damage. Wealthy people respond differently. They remain calm, rational, and strategic. They do not let fear dictate their actions. They understand that everything in financial life moves in cycles: growth cycles, contraction cycles, volatility cycles, opportunity cycles. They recognize that chaos is temporary, but damaging decisions can be permanent. Emotional control is one of the greatest financial skills you can develop. Another essential part of financial resilience is the ability to adapt quickly. The world changes. Industries evolve. Technology shifts. Economies fluctuate. Consumer behavior transforms. If you are rigid, you will break. If you are flexible, you will rise. Wealthy thinkers pivot when necessary. They adjust when circumstances change. They are willing to learn new skills, modify their strategy, expand into new opportunities, or abandon outdated approaches. Adaptability is the trait that allows you to remain stable in unstable environments. The poor mindset resists change. The wealthy mindset evolves with it. Resilience also requires building buffers, both psychological and financial. Financial buffers include savings, emergency funds, investments, and multiple streams of income that protect you from unexpected disruptions. Psychological buffers include confidence, patience, emotional intelligence, and a strong identity that does not crumble under pressure. When you have buffers, a setback becomes an inconvenience instead of a disaster. Financial buffers give you time. Psychological buffers give you stamina. Together, they allow you to continue moving forward even in difficult seasons. One of the most powerful aspects of financial resilience is your ability to recover quickly. Wealthy individuals do not dwell on losses for long. They process them, learn from them, then move forward. Their speed of recovery is what gives them a competitive advantage. The faster you recover emotionally, the faster you can recover financially. Dwelling on mistakes does not change them. It only delays your comeback. The wealthy understand that the only real failure is quitting. Everything else is a temporary setback. Resilience also requires the ability to manage stress effectively. Financial pressure can cloud judgment, weaken discipline, and push you into survival mode. In survival mode, your brain focuses on immediate relief rather than intelligent long-term decisions. Wealthy thinkers prevent survival mode through planning, preparation, and perspective. They monitor their emotions, manage their energy, and create systems that support stability. Stress becomes a challenge to handle, not a threat to fear. Another deep truth about resilience is that your support system matters. The people around you can either reinforce your strength or amplify your weakness. If you surround yourself with individuals who panic easily, complain constantly, or discourage your ambition, your resilience weakens. If you surround yourself with ambitious, strategic, and resilient individuals, your resilience strengthens. Wealthy thinkers choose their environment intentionally because they understand that. Resilience is influenced by proximity. Financial resilience also requires understanding when to persist and when to pivot. Not every strategy will work. Not every business idea will succeed. Not every investment will grow. Some things must be abandoned for better opportunities. Persistence alone is not enough. Intelligent persistence is what matters. Knowing when to change direction is just as important as knowing when to stay the course. The wealthy are not attached to being right. They are attached to getting it right. That flexibility allows them to succeed far more often than the average person. One of the most transformative aspects of resilience is learning to detach your identity from your circumstances. Being broke is a circumstance, not a personality trait. Losing money is an event, not a definition of who you are. Making a bad decision does not make you a bad investor. Failing a business does not make you a failure. Resilient people understand that identity is internal and circumstances are external. When you internalize circumstances, you trap yourself. When you separate them, you free yourself to rise again. Resilience also demands long-term perspective. When you expect the journey to be easy, every obstacle feels catastrophic. When you expect the journey to be difficult, obstacles feel normal. Wealthy thinkers expect setbacks and prepare for them. They anticipate problems. They build strategies for inevitable challenges. They develop the mindset that setbacks are simply part of building something meaningful. Because they expect difficulty, they remain strong when it arrives. Another critical part of resilience is maintaining high standards even during adversity. Most people lower their standards when things get hard. They abandon discipline. They stop learning. They lose focus. They fall into escapism. Wealthy individuals do the opposite. They tighten their discipline when adversity hits. They double down on learning. They increase effort. They refine habits. They strengthen routines. Adversity becomes fuel rather than friction. Financial resilience is also built through self-reliance. Wealthy individuals trust their capacity to recover. They believe in their ability to rebuild, adapt, and overcome. They know they are their greatest asset. That confidence makes them fearless. It allows them to take strategic risks, pursue opportunity, and step outside comfort zones. When you believe in your ability to recover, fear loses its power over you, and ultimately, financial resilience is what allows wealth to last. Many people achieve temporary success, but without resilience, they lose it. Sudden money collapses under weak foundations, but resilient minds rebuild stronger than before. They rise higher after each setback. They refine their strategy. They become wiser, smarter, tougher, and more prepared. Resilience is not only survival, it is evolution. It transforms you. It strengthens you. It fortifies you. It prepares you for a future where wealth is not accidental. It's inevitable. Those who reach 1 millionaire, not the ones who never fell. They are the ones who kept rising again and again until the world had no choice but to reward them. Becoming wealthy is not the result of one brilliant moment. It is the result of hundreds of ordinary moments lived with extraordinary consistency. It is the result of discipline repeated, decisions refined, mistakes learned from, opportunities seized, and a mindset that grows stronger every time life tries to break it. To go from 0 to 1 million, you do not need to be perfect, but you must become unstoppable. Not unstoppable in the sense that nothing affects you, but unstoppable in the sense that nothing ends you. Life will test your commitment, your emotional resilience, your patience, your discipline, your confidence, and the strength of your identity. If you want to build wealth that lasts, you must become the kind of person who cannot be defeated by the challenges that destroy most people. Becoming unstoppable begins with the belief that you are responsible for everything in your financial life, the good and the bad, the successes and the failures, the progress and the stagnation. Responsibility is the foundation of power. As long as you blame circumstances, you remain powerless. As long as you blame luck, you remain passive. As long as you blame your upbringing, the economy, or external factors, you trap yourself in a narrative where you have no influence. Wealthy people refuse to play the victim. Not because life is fair, it isn't, but because victimhood destroys momentum, and momentum is the force that builds wealth. When you take responsibility, you regain control. When you regain control, you gain direction. And when you have direction, wealth becomes reachable. To become unstoppable, you must also master the ability to reinvent yourself. Reinvention is one of the most underrated skills in the journey to wealth. The person you are today will not be the person who earns 1 million. You must evolve in habits, thinking, confidence, patience, discipline, resilience, and ambition. Reinvention means letting go of old identities that kept you broke, limited, or average. It means releasing stories you've told yourself about what you can or cannot do. It means updating your beliefs as you grow. The wealthy reinvent themselves repeatedly because they understand that every new level of wealth demands a new level of self. Another defining characteristic of becoming unstoppable is having a long-term vision so strong that temporary setbacks lose their power over you. When your vision for the future is weak, every obstacle feels overwhelming. But when your vision is powerful, obstacles shrink. You stop reacting emotionally to short-term frustrations. You stop overvaluing temporary discomfort. You stop making decisions from fear or insecurity. You begin making decisions aligned with your future, not your feelings. Vision gives you resilience. Vision gives you direction. Vision gives you strength. And most importantly, vision gives you the courage to continue when the journey becomes difficult. But being unstoppable is not just about the big vision. It is about showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. Consistency is the most underrated superpower in wealth building. Not intensity, not perfection, consistency. The ability to keep taking small actions, making small improvements, learning small lessons, and building small steps that eventually create massive results. Most people fail not because they lack potential, but because they lack consistency. They start strong and fade quickly. They make emotional commitments instead of disciplined commitments. They rely on motivation instead of systems. Becoming unstoppable requires building a life where your identity does the heavy lifting, not your mood. Another critical element is building internal confidence. Not the fragile kind based on external validation, but the quiet certainty that you can handle whatever comes next. Confidence built on achievements collapses when achievements disappear. But confidence built on your capacity to learn, adapt, and execute becomes unbreakable. Wealthy individuals trust themselves deeply, not because they never fail, but because they rise every time they do. They have faced difficulty and seen their ability to overcome it. They have endured setbacks and witnessed their own resilience. Confidence grows from survival, and survival strengthens the belief that you can succeed again and again to become unstoppable. You must also eliminate the behaviors that weaken you. Procrastination, comfort-seeking, emotional spending, self-doubt, negative environments, impulsive decisions, and lack of focus. These habits drain your power. You cannot build wealth while living in patterns that sabotage progress. You must become someone who protects their potential, someone who treats time as precious, someone who guards their energy fiercely, someone who removes distractions, cuts toxic influences, and designs an environment that reinforces success. Your environment shapes your identity, and your identity shapes your financial destiny. Another profound aspect of becoming unstoppable is embracing delayed reward cycles. Most people quit because they expect results too quickly. They underestimate how long mastery takes. They underestimate how long compounding needs to activate. They underestimate the patience required to build something significant. But unstoppable individuals operate with a different understanding. They know the early stages will feel unrewarding. They know progress will feel slow. They know results may take months or years to appear. But they do not measure success by how quickly results show up. They measure success by how consistently they show up. This shift in thinking is the foundation of long-term wealth. Becoming unstoppable also requires the ability to manage your inner dialogue. The mind is powerful, but undisciplined thoughts can devastate your financial life. Doubt, fear, insecurity, comparison, regret, these mental patterns destroy momentum. Wealth building requires a mind that speaks with strength, a mind that encourages progress, a mind that reframes setbacks as lessons, a mind that sees potential where others see limitation. The wealthy train their inner voice. They program their thoughts. They choose narratives that reinforce resilience rather than weaken it. Your thoughts determine your habits. Your habits determine your results. And your results determine your wealth. One of the most important components of becoming unstoppable is learning to operate without external approval. Most people remain average because they fear judgment. They fear failure. They fear embarrassment. They fear looking foolish. But wealthy individuals detach from the opinions of others. They understand that strangers' opinions do not pay their bills, do not build their future, and do not determine their destiny. When you stop caring about being judged, you become dangerous. Because nothing holds you back. Nothing slows you down. Nothing interferes with your ambition. The world becomes quieter. Your potential becomes louder. Another defining trait of unstoppable individuals is their ability to keep building during uncertainty. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They do not postpone action until everything feels safe. They take steps even when the path is unclear. They make decisions even when the future is unpredictable. They move forward even in discomfort. Because they understand a powerful truth: progress made in uncertainty is the most valuable progress of all. It builds courage. It builds capability. It builds momentum. And momentum is the currency of achievement. To become unstoppable, you must also prioritize continuous evolution. Wealth requires constant adaptation. New skills, new opportunities, new industries, new technologies, new mindsets. The world is always changing. And those who resist change remain stuck in past versions of themselves. The wealthy embrace change. They anticipate it. They prepare for it. They build themselves into individuals who can thrive in any environment. This adaptability makes them impossible to break. But the final and most important element of becoming unstoppable is this. You must believe that wealth is your destiny, not your wish. Not in a delusional way, not in a passive way, but in a disciplined, grounded, committed way. A belief that fuels action. A belief that drives progress. A belief that keeps you moving even when nothing is working. A belief that becomes identity. You become unstoppable not because the journey is easy, but because the journey can no longer stop you. You stop folding under pressure. You stop doubting your potential. You stop shrinking your ambition. You stop sabotaging your progress. You stop negotiating with your excuses. And you rise into the strongest, most capable version of yourself. This is the mindset that builds millions. Not a lucky break. Not a miracle moment. Not a perfect plan. A mind that refuses to stay small. A mind that refuses to quit. A mind that masters discipline, patience, resilience, and value. A mind that grows stronger every time life gets harder. When you become this person, wealth is not just possible. It is inevitable. Because you no longer chase money, you become the kind of human being that money is drawn to.